Well, good morning. Happy end of summer Sabbath. Because this weekend, it is done and over with. I don't know about you. I remember coming to the end of summer as a kid, and it was actually one of the times I liked going to school because I actually knew what the teacher was going to ask, and I knew the answer to it, you know. Because you teachers, at this time of the year, one of the first assignments was to write the paper that says what you did this summer, right? How many remember that, right? For me, it was the best one, because again, I knew what it was, and how are they going to give you an F on what you're telling your story, right? So you could just give your story, and sometimes you'd sit there, and you'd remember all the great stuff, and sometimes as a kid, it seemed like summer was so long, and the older you get, the shorter it gets, right? But as a kid, you think, man, what did I do? I first got out of school so long ago, But you'd write down all the big events, all the different things. And so today we're going to kind of do a little bit of that. We're going to summarize a little bit of summer, talk about some things that happened, some things that didn't happen. We're literally going to talk about everything but the kitchen sink today, because it's just one of those days. And so if you're visiting with us today, your first time with us, hi there, glad you're here. But today is not a normal day. We're just going to cover a lot of terry in lots of different ways. And so to kind of tell you about our summer as a pastoral staff, I'll invite Pastor Ann and Pastor Jason to come join me for a second. Pastor Ann just got back. She's the only one of us that has taken a real vacation this summer. Yeah, that's good. She actually went to England and spoke at some meetings over there, and then Jose came over and joined her, and they had about a little more than a week, 10 days of traveling the countryside, eating whatever English people eat. I have no idea what they eat.
I love England, but the food is very bland. So when we got off the plane here in Baltimore, the first place we went to is a Thai restaurant. And I was like, bring on the spices. You know where it says 3 chilies on the menu? That was us.
All right. So she's the only one. We keep telling Pastor Jason, what do we keep telling him?
Got to take off.
All right.
So all of us, we need your help to hold him accountable to take some time off.
Leave is what we're saying. And I'm actually leaving tomorrow. I'm going out, spend a week in California getting ready for my youngest son's wedding next Sunday, or a week from Sunday. So then I'll be back for a couple weeks, and then I actually get a vacation at the end of the month. So I'm looking forward to that.
But you know what they always say, you get a son-in-law or a daughter-in-law, and then you become grandparents. He's not ready to hear that yet.
No, it's got to be a little ways down the road, so yeah. But hey, let me just tell you. Oh.
So we can share.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
We all good now?
Yes.
Would you like to sit down?
That's what we do. We share.
Apparently we share.
So, hey, we just want to tell you, you may remember, you may not have been here as we started the summer. Actually, all 3 of us were gone for a few days. We went down to Austin, Texas, the Music City.
Yeah, live
music capital
of the world. Right, yeah, absolutely. And so we went down there for the NAD Pastoral Convention, and we want to just extend a heartfelt thanks to all of you who helped contribute to get us down there. We really appreciated that a lot. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. It was incredible. It was actually really, really great. And we want to thank, any of the NAD ministerial staff who's here. So Jose and Joanne, all right? Yeah, Dave and Eileen.
Dave and Eileen, yeah.
Right? Yeah, they did a great job coordinating it. It was an incredible event, really meaningful seminars that we had a chance to sit through, and really well thought out. Furthering some of the conversation, we'll have a chance to talk about more, but furthering the conversation of pastoral ministry here in North America. So we just really, really thank you so very much for that. And I think some of us actually had a chance to catch some music and eat some Mexican food, which I just miss.
Yes. It is the hard thing of living on the East Coast is Mexico food from West Coast style.
Yeah, right. So thank you very much for that. Really appreciate it.
And after that, actually, Pastor Jason had to come back because somebody had to preach, so we sent him back. And then Pastor Ann and Jose and myself and Lori, we went on down to San Antonio for a couple of days to kind of see what was going on. And for a lot of you, you're aware of the big general conference session this summer, and we weren't necessarily surprised by the outcome, but we were very much disappointed, not just on the outcome, but just sort of the the way I love this picture, if you notice the way some of the voters look, it kind of captured the moment there.
Well, okay, so this is the big thing, and the General Conference was is a time for the worldwide church to gather together, and there were 65,000 people from around the world that converged on San Antonio. This particular session was overshadowed, I think that's for the lack of a better word, overshadowed by a really pivotal decision that the worldwide church had to make. And the decision was to whether to allow individual divisions within the church organization, the individual divisions of which we belong to the North American Division, or NID. Whether each division could make their own decision in regards to ordination of women into the pastoral ministry. Now, ever since the vote took place, and as we have said, we were very disappointed, not unexpected, but we were very disappointed by the vote. Since then, there's been a lot of confusion between the credentialing of pastors in our church. And there's a lot of confusion between what is ordination and what is commissioning. Let me just try to explain that very briefly. All the pastors within the church are credentialed. And that credentialing gives us both the legal license and the ecclesiastical license. We need the church license to be able to be pastors, to be able to conduct marriages, and all the fun things that we do. There are two levels, well, there are two designations for credentialing. One is commissioning, and one is ordination. Now, I am a commissioned pastor. And again, the vote was related to whether North America Division and other divisions could designate or give the ordination credentialing to their female pastors. What is the difference here? Well, ordination really focuses on affirmation and the recognition to pastoral ministry by the church body. And our church has made a decision to, instead of providing this level of affirmation in ordination to women, that they will provide commissioning to women. And it does not change the fact that God has called me to pastoral ministry. And which has been affirmed by my colleagues here and you. So I want to thank you so very much for that affirmation. But I also want to let you know of the kind of pastoral team that we have here at New Hope. A number of years ago, Pastor Mike was given the credentialing of ordination. He was affirmed by the church into pastoral ministry. This week, Pastor Mike has made the decision to relinquish that level of credentialing. So Pastor Mike is stepping down or letting go of his ordination, and has instead adopted a commissioning credential, which a number of years ago, Pastor Jason was given the opportunity to be ordained, but he made the decision to not accept the ordination credentialing and has instead accepted the commissioning credentialing. And what this means to me personally is I am blessed to work with a team of pastors with a team of men who not only see me as their equal, who not only affirm my call to ministry, but are willing to walk the talk. By It is a privilege for me to work with these two gentlemen side by side in God's kingdom work. And I just want to emphasize enough the heart that these two individuals have for you and for God's kingdom work. I also want to take this opportunity to appeal to all of you. God may have called the three of us to a position as pastors, but he has called every single one of you. Don't forget that. In God there is no male nor female, nor slave nor master, no Jew nor Greek. Every single one of us here and online, if you're watching online, you are a called individual. And what we want to do is take this journey together as a church community to help every single one of you discover your call and live out your call. Because the vision that God has given our church here today is to grow, to live out the kingdom of God wherever we are. And it can begin right now, this very moment. So we want to thank you so very much for taking this journey with us and for affirming the call that God has given all of us to serve in his kingdom.
So that's how we started our summer and how we've sort of finished our summer. But, you know, let me just say this about that. This hasn't been a hard decision, but it's been a thought-through decision because I wanted to make sure in making this choice that I wasn't going to negatively affect New Hope. Because this is where I'm called to serve. This is my most important responsibilities to you folks and to this community. And while I can't force people in this world to see things the way I see things, I can't change their vote. I can make my choice and make my choice to make sure that Pastor Ann and other female pastors know that I see them just as I think God sees me, that we're equal in this. And so that's why this choice has been made. Again, I can't do it for everybody else, but I can do it for myself, and I hope it encourages some folks to consider the choices they can make. But in talking about that, you know, a lot of us, again, would see sort of July as a fail, and I want to be straight with you as we talk about a lot of things today, just some of the failures that have happened for us, at least for me personally this summer, as regards to New Hope and what's been going on. You know, one of our plans was to, this year, have our second big event. We've been doing our big event Easter for the last few years, and that's been a great event for us. And I think every year it'll get better and better as more people in the community becomes part of what they do at Easter time. And our dream and hope is that at Christmas time we will have an outdoor interactive opportunity for folks. And that was supposed to happen this year. And I want you to know it's not going to happen this year. And how you know it's not going to happen is you haven't seen anything get built. And we have to build a whole little village. We have to do a whole bunch of stuff. And this summer, with all these different things going on, and just time-wise, honestly, it hasn't happened. With that said, I do want you to know that there will be something taking place at Christmas. And Jesus is going to be here at Christmas time. And we're gonna have something the Sabbath before and the Sabbath right after Christmas, a chance for us to remember again of what took place. And so I want you to look forward to that. In fact, I'll be making some opportunities for you to help out in that over the next few weeks as we create this sort of Easter-esque kind of Christmas motion, all right? The other thing we failed at this summer was getting up our sort of little cafe that we've been talking about. And honestly, the biggest issue here has been not only time, but has been right location. And we thought we'd figured out the right location, and the more we have looked into it and talked about trying to get soundproofing in there, it was actually at this end of the multi-purpose room, this end of where we have kids' church. So the idea was we didn't want to have something that negatively affect kids' church, and we didn't have something from them negatively affecting the environment. And so after looking at the cost and then recognizing even all the cost, it still may not do what we needed to do. We're looking at another location. So hopefully hopefully by the end of this year, we will have something up and running. So it's not falling off the wayside. It's just we've been having to do some looks. So those are the fails from this summer. Let me tell you about some of the things that got finished this summer. So let you know some good things did take place. If you notice, you've walked the hallways. You notice we redid the hallways. We redid the downstairs bathrooms. We redid some stuff in kids' care. Have added some things. And so we're making some progress to warm things up in that way. So that's kind of where we're at today. And so those are the first part of our kitchen sink stuff we're going to talk about. But next I want to talk to you about two very important things that literally affect the way you live your life. But before we go there, I want to ask you just to bow your heads and let's pray one more time together, okay? Father, I thank you again for the chance for us to be in a place like this today. A place where we care about each other, a place where we care about you, and a place where we're trying to live out your kingdom. And so today, as I talk to your people, I just ask you to give me the right words, the right thoughts, and the right method to move all of us into being much more engaged with you and with this local church. In your name, amen. Luke chapter 12, it sort of has this summary statement at the end of it. Jesus has been talking to some folks, and he's been talking to them about their lives. He's been saying, all of us at times get caught up in so much goes on in lives. How we're gonna pay the bills, how we're gonna put a roof over our head, the kind of clothes we wear, what we're gonna eat for dinner, what we're gonna eat for lunch, and all these different kinds of things. And as he talks about those things, he says, listen, folks, God knows all about that. And God cares about all those things. And because he knows about them and cares about them, I want you to trust him. I want you to trust him. Trust him with your life, not just your life physically, but your life in all of its elements. And then he says some incredible words. He says, don't fear. Don't fear. Your Father wants, that is, he's glad, he's pleased to give you the kingdom. I want you to let that soak in for a moment. Don't fear. Because your Father wants, he's happy to give you the kingdom. So this is not about you got to do this in order to get the kingdom. This is God wants you to have the kingdom. And part of having the kingdom is trusting him in that kingdom. And then Jesus says something very interesting that always makes us kind of get a little hold it here. He says this, sell your possessions and give to the poor. To which we all go, I'm sure Jesus is talking about a very specific situation there and has nothing to do with me. He's talking to this group of people, right? And I'm not going to go any farther than that. I'm just going to throw that out. But he says, sell your possessions, give to the poor. Get for yourselves money bags, this idea of things to hold your money that will not wear out, the treasure in heaven that never fails you, where thieves can't steal and moths can't destroy. Then he makes this incredible statement that your heart will be where your treasure is. Your heart will be where you put it. Because where you put your treasure, the things you value, the things you hold on to, wherever you put that, you're going to follow it along. And so today I want to talk to those of you who would say about New Hope, I love this church. I love it because of the music. I love it because of the kids programs that go on and all that stuff. I love it that we have a chance to gather because there's other young adults that kind of get together and do stuff. I love it because of the people. I love it just because of what it represents. I love how we do things here. I love this. Those are the people I want to talk to today. And if you're a first-time guest with us today, I'm not talking to you because this is like a first date, all right? And if you go out on a first date, right, Jay? Somebody goes out on a first date and says, oh, I'm in love with you, you go, just give me the check, right? I'm out of here because we're all set, right? So I don't want you to fall in love with us today. You may have been here first time and say, oh, this is all great, but you are not in love. You may just simply be in lust this morning, okay? Or attraction, whichever way you want to go, and that's okay. But I want to talk to those of you that regularly come to New Hope, that this is your church. This is where you identify with. And you say, I love this church. Because I want to talk to you, and it's going to get a little tense for the next few moments, so I want you all just to, everybody take their hands for a moment. Everybody grip them real hard. Okay, relax them, kind of shake them out. Okay, that's how it's going to feel for the next few moments, right? It's going to get really tight. And then we're going to kind of shake it off, all right? Because here's my thought, and I've pastored different places and lots of things. This is a consistent thing that always is a part of church. And that is that if you love something, you care about it. But the question is, what are you doing about that love? How are you expressing that love? And one of the worst things you can do for somebody is to say, well, they ought to know that I love them. I should never have to say I love you. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands, guys, but if you believe that way about your wife, I'm going to help you out today, okay? Write it, I love you. Say it, I love you. Don't just expect her to know it, even though she should know it. You still need to communicate it. So let me ask you a question. What do you call a father who says, I love my kids, but doesn't financially support them? Deadbeat father, right? Some of you had it right away, which tells me a whole lot just for knowing you had it right away, right? Not only a deadbeat father, a bad dad, right? Somebody says, oh, I love them, I care about my kids, are they're my heart, they're my soul, you know? No, I don't give them any money, you know? She wants money, she'll let me know, kind of thing. You know how it works? A deadbeat, right? A dad, a bad dad, right? We'd all agree with that, right? Anybody not agree with that? Raise your hand, you'll get stoned, I'm pretty sure, pretty quick, right? So let me ask you another question. What do you call a Christian who says, I love my church, but doesn't financially support it? Sad but true. It's amazing how we can love something but not really do anything. I told you earlier that Lori and I are leaving and we're going out California. My youngest son's getting married. And I'll tell you how I knew my youngest son was serious about this girl. When he started spending money on this girl. Because my youngest son is very much like his father. If you're getting my money, you're getting me, right? You're not getting my money, I'm not doing stuff here, we're not there yet, right? Now, I would say we're a little better than average here. I think most churches operate on the 20-80 rule. 20% of the people do most of the stuff, carry most of the financial weight. And just a quick guess, Sam, looking at some numbers this week, I didn't have enough information, but I'm going to guess that we're probably in the 70-30 category here, which is better than average, but 30% of the people here carry the vast majority of the weight. And you may think, well, that's not right, Mike. So we're pretty close to average. And here's my bottom line point. I don't want you to be average. I don't want you to be average. I don't want you to have an average marriage. That's why we have this mad about marriage thing coming up. And whether you have a great marriage or a okay marriage or a not so good marriage, I want you to come to that. Because I want you to be better than average. You may say, you know what, I help out when I can, I do what I can. But here's my thought. There are 3 reasons I think that a person who loves their church doesn't have a plan. That is a financial giving plan, a plan to support that. And let me just run through these real quick, and then we're going to come back around and look at something here. But number 1, you haven't thought of it. You haven't thought of it. And you may be here today and thinking, oh, I haven't really thought about the idea of regularly contributing. I give when I can, but it kind of makes sense that every month I have bills at home, so I'm assuming every month they have bills there at that church, so it kind of makes sense. And so if you're in that category today that you haven't thought of it, by the end of the day, you can check that box off in your life because you will have thought about it by the time we get done today, okay? Number 2, you just haven't begun a plan. You kind of thought about it, but, money's been tight lately. When I get this job or when I get that car paid off or when I get this taken care of, then I'm going to be able to have some money to give. But right now, it's just not quite a good time. I'm thinking about it, but I just haven't begun to do anything about it. And I want you to consider today, not just waiting to begin, but actually beginning to do something. Even if it's simply, giving $20 a month. It's not a great plan, but it is at least it's a plan, okay? And I'm happy with just any kind of plan at this moment, right? In fact, here's what I want you to consider. I want you to consider developing a plan about giving. I want you to consider a plan about saving. And I want you to consider a plan about living, about spending, all right? And I want you to consider this plan in that exact order. Giving, saving, living. And let me tell you why I put it in that order. If you put living as the first thing, you know what's going to happen? That's right, you have nothing left. I know how that works. I've lived that way. I don't have anything. I've spent, by the time we get to the end of the month, there is nothing left. You know why there's nothing left? Didn't have a plan. Didn't have a goal. But here's my point. If you put giving at the start, you know what's going to happen? You're going to give. It's the very first thing that comes off the plate. And if you save as your second part of the plan, you know what's going to happen? You're going to have money for things when things fall apart. And if you live on what's left over, you know what's going to happen? You can learn to live on less money, right? That's how it works, David. It kind of goes that way. But I can assure you there are people in this room this morning that if you talk to them, and at some point they develop a plan for giving in their life, plan for saving their life, plan for spending, for living in their life, they will all tell you to a person, I wish I had started earlier. And you know why they'll tell you that? Because they all know that they were at some point stupid with their money. And I can prove it to you. How many in this room, I want honesty this morning, how many of you have ever been stupid with your money? Raise your hands high, and then I want you to look at the people that don't have the hands high. And say, liar, liar, pants up, right? Because everybody at some point spends their money stupidly, right? Whether it's just, hey, I'll buy it. Oh, I got a credit card, I'll put it on. And then oh, no, right? Or whether I don't really need that candy bar as I'm leaving. I don't need that magazine as I'm leaving the grocery store, but, right? I mean, whatever your level is, some of you have gotten into terrible business deals. Some of you bought some things because you didn't do, enough due diligence. You didn't really check out what you were buying. Others of you know what it's like just to, money comes in, money goes out, money comes in, money goes out. I'm just trying to live. And one of the best things you can do, and I'm not talking about an amount here, one of the best things you can do for your life is get a plan. And then stick to that plan. Get a plan for giving, get a plan for saving, and get a plan for living. Because here's what's going to happen. You will have more money than you think you had. Because now you have a plan on how you're going to deal with that money. Now here's the third reason. The third reason that a person who loves their church doesn't have a plan. You don't think the church needs your money. See, some of you used to attend other churches. And you knew that church needed your money. You know how you knew that church needed your money? They always talked about needing your money, right? Every week there was a little mini sermon in the bigger sermon. The roof's leaking, the lights are flickering, the carpet's terrible, we got bills to pay, we got all this kind of stuff. And you heard about it every week, right? And you know what happened in those churches that you attended where every week was about money, money, money? You know what you did? You gave. You gave because you felt guilty, because they have these needs, I can at least help out a little bit, right? And you gave something because it was there. But at some point, you quit going to that church and you came to this church. You probably quit going to that church. One of the reasons was you were tired of them always asking about money, always asking you to fill out a pledge card, right? In fact, your husband was thrilled finally, right? Church, all they want is my money. Let's go someplace else, right? And then you come to New Hope. And we hardly ever talk about money, right? So you think. You erroneously assume that since we don't talk about money, they don't need my money, right? I mean, occasionally one of us will get up, whether it's myself or one of the other pastors or one of the community life folks, and we'll say, thank you so much for faithfully supporting New Hope, your generosity, that kind of stuff. And they're not talking about you because you've never been generous here, I'm just telling you the truth, right? I mean, a little basket like this gets passed along here in a little bit, right? And you look in, there's a few of these Connect cards that Pastor Ann talked about earlier, and I'll talk about later. And you look in there, and there's some change. There's maybe a $10 bill. Maybe somebody felt good today and threw in a 20, right? But normally there's like about $2.30 in there. And as it comes by, you look around, and you see all the stuff that goes on here, and you go, there is no possible way that this is taking care of all this. And so you erroneously assume again that somewhere here, somebody's got some deep pockets. And you're thankful because you can just pass the bucket along. Put your card in and pass it along. %30 of our folks that love New Hope take care of the vast majority of our budget here at New Hope. There's a number of folks that pay tithe, and I'm glad you pay tithe. I think it's an important biblical concept. It's an important spiritual concept. But I want you to know that in one sense, that's beneficial to us because it pays my salary, it pays Pastor Ann's salary, it pays Pastor Jason's salary. It also pays a bunch of teacher salaries, a bunch of other pastors' salaries, some missionary salaries, and a handful of administrators. Actually, a whole more than a handful that are too many to talk about, all right? But I'm glad you do it. I think it's an important thing, and I believe in that concept. But I want you to know that in a very practical sense, that does not make any difference about what we do here at New Hope. I mean, it pays my salary, it pays Pastor Ann's salary, it pays Pastor Jason's salary. And I can assure you that we do not split up what you give in tithe 3 ways. Because we gave about $1.1 million in tithe last year. And I can assure you that I'm not rolling before or after taxes. In fact, I'm pretty sure we all 3 of us do it for less than even 1/3 of all of that. And some of you give and you think, because I've given a tithe, I've done my duty. I love my church, and I support it that way. And I'm not doubting your love for your church today, all right? I want you to be clear on that. What I am questioning is, do you understand when Jesus says, where your treasure is, your heart's going to follow, that you have control over this? Because it's safe to assume, we're not doing this on what comes through those buckets. And I don't know how this goes. I don't know how this all takes place, but I'm glad it does. And so they don't need me because it always takes place. We've always got stuff going on. We're always helping out here, giving out there. And here's my bottom line point. If you're going to attend a church that doesn't need your money, then you've got to come up with a giving plan to support the church that doesn't. Because I'm guessing you all are happy that we don't talk about money every week, right? I mean, we could. Pastors could get together. Sam could be with us. He's our finance chair. We could decide to create some crises, Have some bad stuff happen so everybody knows, Don't turn on the air conditioner one of the weeks during the summer. Winter, don't turn on the heat, But we don't want to be about that. I just want to bring your attention today that maybe the reason you don't financially support is because you haven't ever thought about it, you haven't begun, or you don't think we need it. And the reality is, in one sense, we don't need it because we're doing okay with the 30%. But it also limits on the things we can and can't do. There are times when we say, hey, I'd love to do this, but we just don't have the money to pull us off right now to do those kinds of things. So that's on giving. So let me switch to one other category. That's on serving. Everybody ready for this? Say yes, because I'm going to get you out of here. Well, I'm going to be done in about 5 minutes, all right? Yes. All right, here we go. Serving. 3 reasons why a person who loves their church doesn't have a plan on how to serve in their church. Number 1. Number 2. Number 3. Right? Because you show up every week, people are up front, people are out there, people are greeting you saying hi. Happy Sabbath. Right? People are taking care of your kids. You love to take care of your kids. We've got a room set up for you for your meeting and all that kind of stuff. You think it's all great? Let me just bottom line it for you today. We need you to be somebody in this body. And it's for your own sake, and it's for our sake. And for our sake, it's not just so that we got people that'll do all the stuff we want them to do. You know, Paul, the Apostle Paul, who wrote the majority of the New Testament part of our Bibles, talks about this idea that the church is sort of a mini body of Jesus. You know, it's Jesus is all over the place because all these different bodies, but each church is sort of its own unique little body. And for a body to operate well, it needs to have all of its parts working, right? But I want you to think about something. When was the last time you really thought about how amazing your body is? And I'm going to guess it's those times when something wasn't working so well, right? You stub a toe, the big toe especially, or the little baby pinky toe. Who knew a little toe could hurt so much, right? It could affect your walk so much, right? It's when things that don't work, that's when you go, oh man, I take this for granted all the time. And sometimes we take for granted what happens, right? We need you to be somebody in this body, and over the next few weeks, there's going to be opportunities. A little bit later, Lisa's going to get up and talk about Highland Days, a great place to come and serve for just one day. Get your feet wet on just a one-day experience. You're going to talk about, you know, what we're going to do this Christmas. We're going to talk about what we're doing next Christmas. A little bit later, we're going to talk about, you know, other serving opportunities. And I want you to think about being somebody in this body. Number 2, if you benefit from it, participate in it. I think it always makes sense that when you get, you ought to give. That when you're blessed, you ought to bless. And here's the thing I want you to know. If you today begin to not only think about a plan, develop a plan, but actually begin to put in place a plan. Again, I have no number amount in that plan. It's just the idea that you begin to regularly give and support what goes on here at New Hope. You regularly begin to serve in some kind of capacity, whether it's once every few months at one of our outreach programs, or it's once every week kind of thing. Here's the things I want to assure you and promise you. Here's the deal. If you do that, we will continue to have a relevant, safe, and positive church so that when you bring a friend, you're proud to say, this is my church. If you do that, we will continue to create great kids environments so that your children grow up with a positive attitude towards church and fall in love with Jesus when they're young. If you do that, we're going to create student environments that engage the hearts of teenagers and college students so they're prepared for a culture that's committed to squashing their faith and their conscience. If you do that, we will continue to be creative in how we relate to and reach this community for Jesus. And if you do that, we will continue to help you live out the kingdom of God wherever you are. But what happens if you don't do that? Here's the deal. We will continue to have a relevant, safe, and positive church. We will continue to create great kids environments. We're going to create student environments that engage the hearts and minds of teenagers and college students. We will continue to be creative in how we relate to and reach this community for Jesus. We will continue to help you live out the kingdom of God. You know why? Because that's what we're here for. And whether you join us in it or not, it's not going to change what we do. But it will have an impact on how effective we are in doing those things. The Message version of that passage that we talked about earlier simply says this: the place where your treasure is, is the place you will most want to be, and it's also the place you will end up being. So as we wrap this up today, my question is simply this. Because you get to decide on this. Jesus is clear. Wherever you put your treasure, your time, the talents and abilities you have, the treasure that rattles around in your purse or in your wallet or behind that little plastic thing, wherever you put that, your heart's going to follow. So today I hope you'll choose to put your heart here at New Hope, which already has your heart, by the way.